Right ahead.
Okay, good evening, Kevin Fagerstrom. I have lived here for 27 years, raised my family here, and my daughter and her husband just recently bought a house here, and they intend on raising a family here as well. And I just want to see to it that they have as great an opportunity and great as an experience in our fair city as my wife and I did. So starting 2 years ago, I started seeing some changes occurring that were, in my mind, pretty frustrating and not to my liking. So I started attending city council meetings. And the more I sat and watched and the more I learned, the more frustrated I became and got right to filing date. And I said, I'm jumping in. So I filed, and I'm not supposed to make any comments past that, but there's a change I'd like to see in the city council, and I'm going to try and bring about that change. Questions?
Kevin, I wonder if you could tell us what you think the top 2 to 3 really contentious topics would be for our city, the ones that bring the most fire and light.
You bet.
And then pick one of them and tell us what you would do about it.
Okay. Probably, I think that the number one greatest challenge facing the city is going to be growth. We know it's coming. We know there's going to be people. I mean, this is a popular city. I've heard all kinds of numbers bantered about how expensive it is to live here, and that's brought about by how popular it is and how many people. That's just market conditions. But the state taking away our rights of self-determination to determine what concentrations of growth will occur and enforcing us into accepting multi-unit into a single-family residential zone, I think is going to be a detraction, and it's something that we're really going to have to work on. The second issue would be that of homelessness, and we call it homelessness, but it really is drug addiction and mental health, and those are issues that are They're regional issues. They're not something that is just Edmonds, and there's going to have to be a regional approach. So you're going to need cooperation from Montlake Terrace, from Linwood, from Snohomish County, working towards a comprehensive response to that, because the homeless don't recognize these borders. One night they can be in Terrace, the next night they're in Edmonds, and the next night they're in Linwood. So it really does need to be something that has that regional approach to the solution.
So how are we going to address that, though? That's the part of the question. How are we going to address growth?
How are we going to address growth?
Priorities, what are strategies?
We're going to have to really tighten up our comprehensive plan and tighten up the zoning that we have already, and then approach the developers and encourage them to put their multifamily units in zones that are more tolerable, rather than in the middle of a dozen single-family homes, all of a sudden drop a triplex in the middle of it. That's going to affect the quality of life for that immediate neighborhood in terms of parking, in terms of just general activity. It's the quality of life. Zoning, yes, that we'll know where those multifamily units are, and certainly we can't prevent them now, but what we can do is we can encourage the developers to put them someplace where we feel it's more appropriate than sandwiched in between two single-family homes.
That's a good thought, but I think it's not very practical. It's the market. The developer will develop where they can develop. And now the House Bill 1110 allows that, and the property owner are willing to sell, that's going to happen.
If they're willing to sell, and I'm not a developer, but I have spoken to developers, and they say that you'll see it happen, but it's not going to happen a lot. If a home is worth $1 million, and apparently now the average home in the city of Edmonds is over $1 million, it just doesn't pencil out. Whether you're building a triplex or a duplex, that to start out with $1 million in raw land costs before you even demolish the structure to put in the new structure, the economics aren't there. For the most part, there are going to be exceptions, though. It's going to happen, and we unfortunately now no longer have the authority to prevent it.
Kevin, as a longtime resident of Edmonds, as a country and a state, we don't tell people where they can live. My wife and I have been, I'm going to use the same question I talked to Mrs. Payne about. We were a beautiful waterfront town back in the 70s and 80s. Now we're a satellite city of Seattle. We have the crime, we have the parking, we have the congestion. But I think if you can afford to live in Edmonds, live in Edmonds. But there's an underflow of another side. And the crime is really disturbing my family.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. And, I want everything to be about Edmonds, but aside from that, I don't live in Beverly Hills. I can't afford to live in Beverly Hills. I don't live in Broadmoor because I can't afford to live in Broadmoor. So I think there are some, economic conditions that dictate where people live. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And, I don't want us to build a wall around the city, but I think that market conditions are what's going to dictate a lot of this. There will be development, but we'd like to see the development where we think it will have the least impact.
Kevin, with a city council position, do you aspire to move on to other offices?
No, absolutely not. No. I had to be cajoled into doing this. So no, I am all about Edmonds. I'm not accepting any endorsements or any contributions from outside the city. I'm using only city vendors for my entire campaign. This is about Edmonds for Edmonds. Period.
Thank you, sir.
And as a follow-up question to that, thinking about Edmonds, for Edmonds, because we have this great community, how would you propose then, with the new housing issues coming up, how would you propose providing housing for our teachers and our firemen? And they're being priced out.
Yeah.
And our retirees are being priced out.
Correct. I would be in favor of every project and a multi-housing project, and you'd have to crunch the numbers and find out where that magic sweet spot is. Is it a 6-unit apartment, an 8-unit apartment, a 16-unit apartment, and require that a X percentage of them. So I'll just pick some numbers out of a hat. If you have a 16-unit apartment building, that a minimum of 2 of those have to be subsidized, low income, and rent protected for X number of years.
And are we proposing then that some of those large apartment complexes would be in that downtown?
Again, land costs are going to. We have 2 coming up right now. I think a 14 unit that's going to be built on Dayton, and now a 16 unit that is proposed for Maine. And I have not read those proposals, so I don't know if there are set-asides, rent controls for those 2. But I have a close friend who has a daughter who is developmentally disabled, and she can function on her own in a standalone lifestyle, but she doesn't drive. And so she desperately wants to live on her own, but would otherwise not normally be able to. And so that Westgate project was absolutely perfect for her. And she's been there since the day it opened and absolutely loves it and intends on staying a long time. But she would only be able to stay a long time if we have written in proper rent controls into the development contract, so that isn't just a flash in the pan. It's not just a year or 2 years or 3 years, that it's something much longer term.
Yeah, I think this is some friction we're going to come up with as these new state laws.
Yeah.
So thank you for your
Okay.
I'll see if I can squeeze in the crime question. As we know, the majority of the crime happens on Highway 99. Yeah, our police department is located within downtown. It takes anywhere from 20 to 30 minutes to get out of town, especially when all the activities, including the market, case of Edmonds, all the nice tourism that's going on. So do you see see that's the best setup, or do you see opportunities for police relocation or a permanent satellite?
That's,
Time to begin.